Let's try this again. So this is Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. And I'm reaching out to the deplorables of the world to try to find a way to bridge and create some common ground so that we don't waste the next 4 to 8 years just pissing on each other. At the end of the day, there's a lot more we have in common as human beings, as parents, as just human beings on the planet that we inhabit, that we want to do well for ourselves. We want to do well for our families. We want to be able to take care of our own. And we want to be able to lead a good quality of life. We don't want to be screwed with. We don't want to have a lot of intrusions into our lives. We don't want to have a lot of problems. We just kind of want to wake up in the morning, do what we have to do, take care of our families, and then go to bed. And I think that there's a lot more in common with progressives and these deplorables than we'll ever give ourselves credit for. And for the things that we don't get along about, I want to park those over here for a minute. I would just accept that there's a lot of things you and I are not going to agree on. But for the things that we do agree on, let's talk about that for a minute. You know, the government has lied to us. I think we all can agree to that. Your Republican Party has lied to you. The Democratic Party has lied to me. Both parties have lied to us. And in the middle of all that, what's happened? We've struggled. We've had very, very poor health care in this country. We have had no dental care in this country. We have absolutely no means of surviving the big crashes in the economy that the big banks can. We can't survive the distractions that they give to us to keep us busy, not focused on taking care of our own lives. We don't have the ability to survive all the games that they play that they can survive, but we can't. Now, as a progressive and as someone who was once a Republican, a lifelong Republican, I can tell you that I understand family values from a Republican perspective. I can tell you that I understand that Republicans do love their children. They do love their families. The problem where we end up having issues is how we define family. How do we define, who deserves what and what deserves who? We'll get to that in a minute, because that's really not as important as finding common ground going forward. I don't have 4 years to kill waiting for some miracle to happen. We have Trump as president. And during that time, I think it's important that you understand that we can do an awful lot together. Not necessarily the powers that be. I'm talking about the common man. I'm talking about everyday people. I'm talking about you and I. There are so many things that we care about that are the same. You use different terminologies. You say different things, different terms, different ways of viewing the world cloud the commonality. One of the things that I think is very important to understand as they start to look at Obamacare and they start to look at different ways of attacking Social Security, etc., is that you guys would like to be able to have health care. You'd like for your kids to have health care. You'd like to not have to spend a fortune out of your pocket to pay for horrible, horrible co-payments and all the different fees that come with the latest and greatest Obamacare. For many of us, it has not been affordable. For many of us, the pharmaceuticals that we get through this are not affordable. For many of us, the costs of our deductibles are not affordable. So as you start to think about, well, what do we want to do? Can I just try to interest you in the idea of single-payer health care? The Democrats are not going to have enough spine to put this forward. In fact, Bernie Sanders' advisors have told him not to put this out until after the 2018 election because it's very important to have Democratic unity. Well, I got good news for you. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a progressive. And I care very much about the health care for my children and for my family and for your family, quite frankly. I care about every family, even families I don't particularly care for. And so one of the things that I think is also important is that when you think about single-payer health care, you've got this boogeyman in your head about socialism. You've got this boogeyman in your head about communism and all this stuff. As somebody who was once a Republican, who spent years and years and years saying the exact same things, first and foremost, what I'm proposing, is not in any way, shape, or form communism. And quite frankly, it's really not socialism in the sense of the government actually owning the doctors, creating the industry. They just would make the payments. So your idea of socialism when it comes to this stuff, it's not true. It's not true. And here's something else too. We don't have to raise taxes through the roof in order to do this. We can have single-payer health care today without raising a single dollar of tax to do it. How do you say? First thing we have to do is we have to get past your idea that we're in big debt. The federal government is monetarily sovereign. It doesn't owe any kind of money to China. It doesn't owe money to all these places. It doesn't require our tax dollars, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, to pay off all these foreign countries. That's not how it works. We have treasury bonds at the Federal Reserve. These people buy these treasuries. They're just a savings account. It's nothing more than a savings account. If they ever decided they were going to cash in all these securities, it's a keystroke. Trust me, they don't require your tax dollar to pay off any of those treasuries. They don't. They don't require your money at all. Your money is your money. When they talk about raising taxes, it doesn't have to be on us little people, us 99%ers. It really doesn't. It can be done a host of different ways. Taxes don't fund spending in a monetarily sovereign nation. So all the times the Republicans have told you, how are you going to pay for it? They were lying to you. And all the times that the Democrats have said we got to raise taxes to pay for it, don't worry about it. They were lying as well. The reality is that taxes don't fund spending. Taxes help with inflation. They help drive the economy. They keep the value of the US dollar high, but they don't fund anything. And therefore, we don't need to raise them in order to have single-payer health care. In fact, single-payer health care would put more money into the hands of working Americans today. People like yourself, red state folks, people who just want to lead a regular common life without any extra stuff from the government, without any intrusions. We're not talking about anything else. We're not talking about guns. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking simply about health care. And it could be done right now, today. Forget all the fights you might hear with the Democrats. Forget all the fights you might hear with the Republicans. Forget all the nonsense you might hear from your Uncle Buck down at the mechanic shop. Okay? And forget about Joey up there at the barber shop. I'm telling you the straight skinny. Taxes don't fund spending. You can go to your church tomorrow and tell your fellow parishioners, hey guys, we can take care of the least of these right now, immediately. Single payer would be the single greatest thing that ever happened to you or I in this country. And it doesn't get paid for with other people's money. That's not how it works. It gets paid for by our federal government writing a check, sovereign check, to the people that need to get paid. It's that simple. beautiful things you've been lied to for so long that I'm here to tell you that the Democrats are screwed up just as bad as the Republicans. They both are FUBAR, and they're both liars. I'm not here representing a party. I'm not here representing a politician. I'm here representing my children and your children. And I'm telling you that as people, mano a mano, people shooting pool, people playing ping pong, people drinking a beer together, people hanging out talking about cars, doing whatever it is you do, doing whatever it is I do, listening to some heavy metal music or country music or whatever the hell it is. We can bond together and make them give us health care and to stop keeping us sick and miserable. We can do that. We can disagree on all kinds of other stuff. We may have to fight later about it. But don't worry about that right now. Let's worry about getting rid of Obamacare, but replacing it with single payer. I'm with you. Let's repeal Obamacare if that's what it takes. But let's not give it over to the private sector. And let me tell you why we don't want to give it to the private sector. If we give it to the private sector, then all of a sudden your health and my health and our kids' health are going to be in trouble because it's going to be based on a profit margin. What if your son or daughter has an illness that isn't profitable for the hospital to treat? What if they have an illness that is not profitable for the insurance company to treat? What if they have an illness that the pharmaceutical company can jack the rates up on the product and not give them service? Now, I'm not talking about anybody you don't like right now. I'm not talking about any groups out there. I'm not talking about anybody coming to the country illegally. I'm talking about your kids. What if your children are sick and need help? What about it? Would you like a system in place prevents them from dying? I would. And it's up to us to do that. We can do that. Together we can do that. We can fight again later, I promise you. I'm ready to fight with you later. But when it comes to health care, I'm trusting you love your kids too. I'm trusting that even if you hate my kids, you love your own. And I'm trusting that at the end of the day, you don't want the government getting over on you anymore. You don't want them lying to you anymore. You don't want the Democrats lying to you anymore. I don't want the Democrats lying to you or me either. And I don't want the Republicans lying. Bottom line, taxes don't fund spending, man. Taxes for revenue are obsolete. Haven't been in any way, shape, or form tied to spending in a very, very, very long time. So we can do this today and have the best coverage ever. I also want to talk to you about infrastructure. You and I both have to drive over bridges every day. You and I have to go to work. We have to rely on tractor trailers going to and fro, bringing large packages across these bridges, and they're falling apart. Bridges across America are falling apart today. The infrastructure report on America is sickening. There are more bridges in ill repair than you will ever have any understanding. And they're dangerous. They're falling apart right now. So on a safety level, you and I need those bridges to be functioning. We need them to be safe, and we need to be able to count on them so that when we send our wife and children over those bridges, that they're not going to take their life in their own hands. But let me talk to you a little bit about jobs. Infrastructure brings huge, huge, huge amounts of good, high-paying, blue-collar work to the United States of America. And if we demand man, jobs, help people in the United States. And we don't deal with a bunch of foreign contractors. We can boost the lives of blue-collar workers throughout the United States. The working class. There is no such thing as unnecessary military spending. We need to spend that on research and development. We never cut spending. We must shift spending. Because otherwise, what ends up happening, you blue-collar folk and us, we all end up getting laid off because there's not enough money circulating in the economy. And rather than twisting the ties on Hershey Kisses, wouldn't you rather be fixing bridges? Wouldn't you rather be working on energy grid? Wouldn't you rather be working in some field that gave you a sense of purpose and gave you a career? This is stuff we can do today, right this minute. Together, though, if we don't fight the whole 4 to 8 years. If we decide that we care more about our families than we do about fighting as Republican or Democrat. If we decide our families mean more and our country means more to us than that, we can do this regardless of who's president, regardless of what is in the Senate or what's in the House. We can do it. It's in our hands. It really is. And I think that as long as you understand that the two parties have been lying to us the entire time, then you can be a useful partner with us to take them down and make them serve us. There's no reason that we have to fight each other when it comes to basic things like infrastructure, health care, and, let's talk about this, family medical leave. I know that you care about your wife or yourself being at home with your children when they're born. I know that's an incredibly important family value for Republicans. Well, as a progressive, I share that as well. I would like to have been able to stay home when we had our child. But we had to go back to work really quickly. And so my young son was put immediately into a daycare, which broke my heart. But it doesn't have to be that way. Countries around the world, and they aren't all socialist, and they're not communist, and they're not whatever. But even if they were, doesn't that sound crazy that they take better care of their own than we do? At the end of the day, these folks all around the world provide massive amounts of leave for families when they have children. The United States could do that today, and we could do that together if you decide that you love your children more than partisanship. If you love your kids and you love your spouse more than you love partisanship, we can work together and make this happen. A tripartisan, unipartisan, whatever partisan, nonpartisan way of taking care of our families. We can make this happen today. Paid family and medical leave. If you get sick, why should you worry about losing your job? And while we're at this whole thing about jobs, why don't we talk about, instead of having unemployment insurance, instead of having this thing that runs out after a few weeks, etc., what if we had a guaranteed job? What if there was a federal job guarantee that no matter what, if you lose your job, there's already a job waiting for you that would have benefits and would enable you to take care of your family even if your prior job laid you off or you had problems in your family. Somehow or another, something wrong happens in your family. You get sick, they get sick, someone gets sick, whatever. There is a job waiting for you with the federal job guarantee. How awesome would that be? That way you're not missing bills. You're still able to take care of your family and be a responsible family man, as you would say. You're still able to do all the things that you thought were necessary. And instead of just collecting a check on unemployment, instead you would have a guaranteed job. Everyone would have a federal job awaiting them with benefits, etc. There would be no more poverty. We could set the bar for what it takes to hire us, like a union, like whatever it is that you want to do. Blue collar people can unite to make this happen with progressives, if it matters enough for you to make this happen. I disagree on social issues. I know we disagree on immigration. I know we disagree on the role of government. I know we disagree on a host of things. But the things I laid out, single-payer health care, family medical leave, infrastructure, and a job guarantee, I think we can agree on that. And I think that there's plenty of ways for us to talk through that so that the Republicans and the Democrats don't continue to lie and treat us like a ping pong ball, so that we can be left alone to lead our life and take care of our own. I think there's a way to do that. And I think there's a way for us to work together to those means to an end. And again, plenty of opportunity for us to fight later. But let's not make our families suffer while we fight. Let's fix these problems that we can fix today. Let's find places where we can work together. One of the most powerful moments of my political life was when Bernie Sanders went to Liberty University, and he spoke in an area where nobody thought an old socialist Jew would ever be welcome. And that man spoke to them, and they received him, and he received them, knowing full well that there were many areas that they completely disagreed. He knew full well he was going into the belly of the beast, a place that nobody would accept a guy who was a confirmed democratic socialist. And yet there he was, an honest man, talking to people he disagreed with and finding common ground. I'm not here to make America fail again. I'm not here to perpetuate the two-party system that continue to play us as suckers. I'm here to fight for my family. That's why I call myself a real progressive. But more importantly, though, I'm a dad. You know, I'm a dad. And I care very much about my children, and I know you do as well. All jokes aside, it's time for us to put them first. It's time to put them ahead of partisan bullshit. And it's time to take care of our families. And we can make our government respond to us the way they were supposed to from day one. And not let them lie to us anymore. And not let them divide people under false pretenses. Anyway, this is Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. And I hope that we don't waste 4 years screwing around when we have real things that have to be tended to. So with that, have a great night, everybody.